Hey guys, welcome to a day in the life of a bookkeeper, and today's theme, if you will, is cozy entrepreneur. So that in a nutshell is like the opposite of hustle culture. It is living your life at kind of a slow, cozy pace. So I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but first I'm going to let you know my 3 items that I'm going to get done today as a bookkeeper. I try to follow like a 3-item to-do list. The night before I'll write down the 3 things I want to get done that day, and that's kind of how I live my life as like minimalist slash, I guess, cozy entrepreneur. So the first thing on my list is to pull some reports out of QuickBooks for a client who needs them for an audit. I think that they're getting audited by their insurance company. Maybe audit is not the right word, but their insurance company is like checking through their books to make sure that everything's legit. So they need like a profit and loss and some other things. So I'll go over how I'm going to do that. Number 2, I need to do a little bit of receipt organization for a different client. I don't love organizing receipts. I try not to do that. But this is a small little task that I need to do and actually have someone else organize the receipts. So I'll go through that. And number 3 is I have a meeting with my assistant. She's actually now called my online business manager, OBM, I believe. And so I meet with her monthly. Her name is Gabe and she is amazing. You may have interacted with her if you emailed me or if you're, a student in one of my courses. Gabe is in there helping out a lot and answering questions and doing just a bunch of really helpful things. All right, let's start with the first thing on my list. I'm actually going to explain my day to you now, and then I will intersperse clips of me doing these things. That's just going to be the easiest way for me to do it today. So like I said, my client's insurance company is checking over the things. So here's a list of the reports that I need to pull. So I need to do a payroll report for 2023. So for last year, I think that is going to include all of the taxes taken out, all of the like 10 or so employees, maybe 12 employees, and then, how much they were paid, their W-2s probably. And within Gusto, there's just a big report that I can just pull. It's like one thing and it has all that information. Report of taxes paid. So that's actually also to do with payroll, kind of what I just said. You have to pay quarterly taxes. Gusto takes care of it all. And then I can pull a report that says we paid Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. All the 1099s created, I can pull those from Gusto in one big, I think it's a PDF maybe, instead of having to do them one by one. And then I need to pull a general ledger. So that is in QuickBooks, and that shows every single transaction that happened in the whole year. And so it's organized a little bit differently than like the profit and loss, but it's a very detailed report of the finances. And then I need to pull a profit and loss. So I've actually been kind of putting off this task. I don't know why. It actually won't be that hard. I think it'll take me like 30 minutes to do. Then I have to upload them to like this secure web portal. But this is encouragement to you guys. If there's something you've been putting off, let's do it together. So I'm not going to go into Gusto and show you any of my clients' information, but this is what the Gusto website looks like, and it's pretty user-friendly, so it's easy to figure out. And then let's go into QuickBooks and I'll show you how to do the other 2 things. So under reports, the first thing was just a profit and loss statement. This is one of the most common things that you'll be pulling as a bookkeeper. For my client, I went to pull the last year. For this in the sample company, I'm just going to do all dates because the data is better for that. But a profit and loss just has all the income at the top, and then it has all of the expenses. Where did it start? Right here, starting here. Then it has the net income made at the bottom. And so you can just export it really easily, either into Excel document or a PDF. I think I did an Excel for this. All right, and then the general ledger. I don't actually use this as much. I'll just type it in because I'm not sure where to find it on that giant list. So let's again look at more data for you. This just shows like pretty much everything that's happening in QuickBooks. So usually for an audit or for someone that's just wanting like a complete and total picture of everything that's in QuickBooks, this general ledger will be the key for that. And then now I'm just going to take that new folder and upload all these 5 documents to the portal that they gave me. All right, so we checked off the first thing off my list. For each one of these items, I also want to give you one of my 3 rules that I live by as a cozy entrepreneur. And this video was inspired by another YouTuber. Her name is Dea, and she created like a really well done, interesting video that was similar to this. It was like a day in her life, and then she talked about how she keeps balance and why she considers herself a cozy entrepreneur kind of in this hustle world that we live in. And so I will leave her link down below. Some of my ideas are inspired by hers, but I really tried to kind of make it my own thing as well. The first rule that I live by is to follow my mood. I personally have learned about myself that I'm really productive sometimes and I really am unproductive sometimes. And sometimes I can motivate myself or I can create an atmosphere that is motivating to me, but sometimes I can't. And so if I'm just able to kind of ride those moods, that has helped me a lot and not stress when I'm in an unproductive mood. So some things I do to help myself with this is I work ahead as much as possible. So I try not to leave things to the last minute, but if I can get them done like a week or two ahead of time, like maybe to run payroll, I need to do it by the 10th, but there's like 10 lead up tasks to do that payroll for a client. So I'm going to try to be doing all those tasks ahead of time, and then there's likely a time sensitive aspect. So then I can prepare as much as possible when I do feel that motivation. Going along with this, Daya calls it a zero shame policy. So if I sleep in, or if I watch some TV in the middle of the day, or if I don't exercise as I wanted to, just let it go. It's not that big of a deal. No shame policy. I also try to think about the season that I'm in. So I've been bookkeeping for 10 years, so I've been through a lot of different seasons. We've had people pass away. I've had 2 babies during this time. We've had times where we had less money or where we had more money. We've moved a couple times. We've, had really busy seasons and less busy seasons. So at certain points, I was in more of a hustle mindset. At the very beginning, I really needed to make money, and that was a big priority, and my family was depending on that. So that was one season. But another season, this last summer, was a different season. I was able to, again, work ahead as much as possible, and then I did very minimal work during the last 2 months of my kids' summer vacation. So those are some ways that I'm able to follow my mood as a bookkeeper. Number 2 on my bookkeeper 3-item daily to-do list is to organize that receipt spreadsheet. So if you go back and search, I think it was my most recent day in the life, it was a week in the life, I was getting ready for an audit. This is a process that I created through that week, and then I talked about in that video. So the receipt management was kind of going out the window a little bit. So what I am doing today is I'm pulling a list of the receipts that I've needed for the last quarter, and I'm uploading it into Google Drive. And then one of the preschool teachers is going to find that receipt because they are the ones making the purchases. And then she will name them with a naming convention that we talked about. I think it's with the vendor's name. So if they bought something at Safeway, and then I forget, I think it's the date. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. And then hopefully by doing this regularly, she will feel on top of her receipts, and it will be less work for me because I'm not shuffling through papers, and it'll be nice and clean and clear and ready for the audit next year. All right, so here's my Google Drive with the preschool stuff organized by year. This is a new system that I am just fine tuning. So you can see for the receipt stuff, it is for this year right here. And then I have bank statements. The receipts are actually all in here now. This is actually the next day. So the teacher put everything in there already. So I'll show you guys that. Then we have the budget. And then, so this is the receipt checklist that I prepared yesterday. So it is just an Excel document that I printed right out of QuickBooks. These black marks are just for confidentiality, so I'm not showing all this data. So it just has the date, and it has the vendor right here. And then this is the category in QuickBooks, the amount. And then this column, this was filled out by the teacher. So if she checked it off, that meant that it was complete and it's in that other folder. And then for example, this Amazon one, I think these were bunched together for $32.19. And so it was actually 3 different things that were within there. And then the checks, I have those check reimbursement forms. So I have paper copies of that. And then the president checks this form also, because we were trying to just kind of better manage our receipt process. So I will send this over to the president so that she can check off that it is done. Side note, this obviously is supposed to be a date. I am pretty good at Excel and formatting in Excel. But this is a Google Drive spreadsheet, or whatever you call it in Google. For some reason, I cannot find where to format those. So leave me a comment if you know that, or just generally if you think that Excel is easier to use or you're more familiar with it than Google Sheets. My friend was actually saying that Google Sheets has a lot of really cool capabilities. I'm just less educated in this exact program. All right, and then going back here just to peek at the receipts really quick, we decided she's going to name them with the date and then the vendor and then the amount. That is amazing because it's going to be really easy to just, open up one of these whenever we need to view it during an audit. All right, and my cozy bookkeeper rule number 2 is think about what you are optimizing for. And I did borrow this from Dea, so definitely don't forget to watch her video after this. So a lot of the time in our businesses, we think we're optimizing for money, but that's not actually what we want. What I want in my business is freedom, is time freedom, and to be able to do tasks that I enjoy, to be able to stay home with my kids. You guys have probably heard the story. It might be in 4-Hour Work Week, or I'm not sure if it's just like a fable that everyone knows, but it's the guy that was laying on the beach, and then the rich man said, why don't you go get a job? And so the guy went and got a job. He made a bunch of money. He was stressed and really successful. And then what did he do in his free time? He wanted to go back to the beach and lay on the beach. So was all of that hustle really worth all of that if he was doing what he wanted to do, and then in the end, after all the hustle, he went back to doing that same activity? So I've thought about that in my own life. Maybe one of my kids comes in and starts like talking to me while I'm working, and I can't concentrate, and I'm getting really frustrated with my kid. Yes, that's a normal part of life. That happens to us all. But if I go back to that question, what am I optimizing for? What I'm optimizing for is lower stress and more time with my kids. And so if my job is stressing me out and causing me to like snap at them, then that's not the goal that I'm working towards. And then there's also the idea of constraints. So how much money is enough money? Am I just gonna keep like wanting more and more and more every year? Or at some point I'm going to be like, I am content with this amount of money, with this lifestyle, with this amount of bookkeeping clients. Kind of like this 3-item to-do list today. That is another example of a constraint. I mean, I could have a master list of like 20 different items that I want to get done today, but I just need to learn to, give it a boundary and be like, after 3 items, I'm going to stop working for the day, and I'm going to do another 3 items tomorrow, and I'm not going to get burnt out. And then eventually everything's gonna get done. All right, last thing on my list today is my meeting with Gabe. I'm not necessarily gonna bring you guys along with this, but at this point our meetings are pretty casual. Both of us will bring a list of like 5 or so things we want to go over, want to talk about, and we'll talk about those. We've also had like co-working Zoom meetings, so that is a good tip if you need some motivation, or if maybe there's another bookkeeper that lives far away from you that you want to, just have someone like body double with you, sit beside you, and you can both get things done. If you're curious about how and like why and when I hired someone, I have a video all about that that's called Hiring an Assistant for Your Bookkeeping Business, something like that. And don't be intimidated by it, because you can have a contractor work for you just a few hours a week and do a few tasks. And then you can kind of build it over time and see how it's working within your budget. And the third rule I live by as a cozy bookkeeper is focus on time freedom. And we talked about that a little bit in rule number 2, but this really digs deeper into how much time am I spending. So one of my rules is that I try to end my workday by 1 p.m. Usually I have a little time to myself, and then my kids get home. So that is a really, really nice balance for me. And I do understand that is a luxury that I have. And as an entrepreneur, especially a cozy one, you have to remember that your time doesn't equal your productivity. So if you get your 3 items done in an hour, then you're still productive, and you can, if you want to, call it a day. When I worked in corporate America, I had to be there basically sitting at my desk from 9 to 5. And if I got everything done at 3 p.m., it would be weird if I left. It would kind of be like frowned upon by my boss. And so sometimes I feel like I was just sitting at my desk and I wasn't being productive. Or like I talked about earlier in this video, I wasn't able to kind of like go along with my moods as much. So if I was in a mood, like really tired or in a really bad mood or doing something that was making me unproductive, I was still spending the time at work sitting at my desk. And the other thing to remember as a bookkeeper is this is not an emergency. Like if someone's books don't get done like today and they get done like in a week, like no one's gonna die. You're not a doctor. Maybe there's a tax deadline, but even that, like the IRS isn't gonna come after you if you're a couple days late from something. And when I was talking about this with my husband, he had a little catchphrase that I liked. He said, when dealing with clients, don't let their urgency become your emergency. So if someone is really breathing down your neck, you can choose whether you want to consider that an emergency or not, and you do not have to. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you staying till the end. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're interested. I have lots of resources, some free, some paid, in my description box. I will talk to you again next week with a new bookkeeper video.